Hello, coaches. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. My name is Kim Cafino, and I'm here to help you coach better. After decades as a teacher and coach in international schools, I founded my company, Eduro Learning, to help you embrace your inner leader and make a bigger impact in your school setting as a teacher, a coach, or a leader. I work with clients around the world in our certificate programs and private mentoring packages. And today's episode features some of my amazing clients from the Coach Certificate and Mentorship Program. If you have a topic you'd like to hear us talk about or a guest you'd like to see on the podcast, please leave a comment below or join our Coach Better Facebook group or find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. Today, we have a fantastic panel episode featuring our amazing graduates from the Coach Certificate and Mentorship Program. Amy, Carly, and Abby have all graduated from the Coach in the last few years. They all came to the program with lots of experience as teachers and were either new to the coaching role or just about to step into a coaching role. In the program, they learned the skills they needed to be effective and successful as coaches, and they're continuing to apply and develop those skills beyond the scope of coaching now that they've graduated. In this episode, we talk about what surprised them when they first got into coaching, so you can get some insight into what the first year of coaching might feel like for you. In the full-length episode, we also talk about how they got into coaching, the skills they learned in the coach that prepared them to be successful as coaches, how their coaching skills support them well beyond just coaching, and what they believe all growing and aspiring coaches should do to keep growing professionally. To listen to the full episode, subscribe to Coach Better wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel here to catch all of our latest episodes on YouTube. After the show, head over to coachbetter.tv to get all of our resources for instructional coaches. When you all got first into coaching, when you first started coaching, when you first were a coach, what was the thing that surprised you most? So you're all coming at this from completely different angles. You were fortunate to have this strong belief in professional growth and professional learning to get started. So what surprised you when you actually moved into the role and you were the person that was responsible for professional learning, in essence, for others? And I'll start with Abby and I'll go backwards this time. So Abby, Carly, then Amy.
This actually is pretty connected to what happened with the position being eliminated. It was a little surprising since our school had a relatively well-established coaching team at our school, how much we still needed to establish that role of a coach, helping teachers understand we're not a help desk, right? There's so much else that we can do. Yes, there are some things we might just help you do, but there's so much more to that role, and really helping teachers, other admin, other leaders understand what that role was definitely a surprise for me at the beginning.
Okay, got to tell us a little bit more about that, because that is one of the things that I am constantly talking about. And I like to talk about the stages of customer awareness and communicating your role and being clear and actively finding clarity in your role so you can define it, communicate it to others. Tell us a little bit about in what way that surprised you. You were like, oh, people still don't know what I do. And then what did you do about it? At that time, a little more snippet.
I think a little bit it was the 2020-21 school year. So we were virtual that entire year. So a little bit it was teachers just needed to get their feet on the ground and really understand what they needed to do with tech. And as kind of the lead person at that time for Seesaw, I just really felt like they're just coming to me for quick answers, quick fixes, not really focused on the learning, but the how do I do this? And so as a K-12 team, which was nice that we had all of the coaches together, the librarians, our curriculum director, we did some things like, now I'm going to forget what we called them, but just some like mini PDs each week to kind of focus a little bit less on just how to do something and more how do we enhance the learning. We did some 5-minute chats so that we could kind of gauge what the needs of the teachers were so that we could try and meet the teachers where they are. But in more of that, we're growing as educators as opposed to just give me answers. Did that answer all of the parts?
Yes. And I think that is such a good point to kind of dig deeper into it. It's something I talked about a lot when I was on the call, I think with Laura Lipton, a previous episode. And if I remember, I'll put it somewhere on the video in the podcast. We talked about the importance of understanding the continuum of practice from consulting to collaborating to coaching, that there's value in all of those places. On the episode with Joelle and Killian, we talked about the value of building relationships that might be part of coaching light. You might think of that as more like consulting that can lead to more deeper conversations. And I think you articulated that mindset really clearly is that, okay, in 2021, if we were all virtual, maybe there weren't going to be deep, meaty, coaching conversations happening at this time, but building those relationships, building the connections is really important and valuable. But if your program is going to continue to grow, we have to define what that is and what it's going to grow into. And I think that may be where some of the challenges kind of came up. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just like guessing. Abby, anything more you want to add to that, or I'll move on to Carly?
No, I will say that we really were able to transition after those 5-minute chats into some really deep, meaningful conversations. It just took that a little extra push, like you said, a little more coaching heavy, just pushing the teachers a little bit more.
And that's a small thing, right? A 5-minute chat is not a huge investment. That's a really good example. And you did those a little bit like learning walks, right? You walked around the campus and had 5-minute chats with people and kind of tracked who you were talking to. So you would talk to everybody. Am I remembering that right?
We did talk to everybody, but we did them virtually. So we had our own, each coach had a different portfolio. So I had like KG2, grade 2, grade 3, and 4. And so then I was the person who scheduled 5-minute chats with every single teacher on my portfolio. And we did them just virtually. We had a couple of set questions, but then we also had, is there anything else you want to share with me? And then we were able to follow up with some of those. And that part was a little bit more shared among the team on who maybe is going to follow up based on what their needs were. So it really prompted conversations. It helped us kind of figure out what those weekly PDs should be about, but then also maybe some of that one-on-one coaching or even team coaching that we engaged in after that.
Perfect. I definitely want to give Carly a chance to share what surprised her, but I also do want to point out that also demonstrates the importance of intentionally reaching out to every teacher that's on your roster or your portfolio. And it's easy to think that people are going to come to us, but really making sure that you're strategic and intentional about who you talk to. You can see the power of that in the story that you shared. Carly, tell us a little bit about what surprised you when you first got into coaching.
Sure. I think now when I think about it, it's actually kind of silly and super naive. But what surprised me most was that there were a lot of teachers who were very tentative about coaching and reluctant to engage. So I think that was definitely my own personal bias of like wanting to learn more and improve practice. And doesn't everyone want to do that, right? And it sounds really naive to think about that, but there were a lot of teachers who I think, weren't really sure, kind of like Abby said, they're not really sure what the coach's job is. And they don't know if they should engage. Is it safe? What is this going to be more work for me? So I think my biggest surprise was realizing that a lot of teachers weren't, jumping to the front of the line to be coached.
Oh man, I could talk about this one forever too. And I know that we don't have all day to talk. So I'm going to try to be quick, but I am doing a little, a reel, an Instagram reel. I'm enjoying finding my acting skills to do my Instagram reels. And one of the things that I'm talking about is this surprise of like, people don't want to be coached, this shock, because I think it is really surprising because you get into coaching because you either loved being coached or you love learning or you want to keep learning and growing. And so then to have that moment of realizing, oh, not everybody feels that way. How do I help those people feel safe and interested and know enough to want to be part of this process with me? That's like a whole new skill.
Absolutely.
Hey there, coaches. As I'm editing this video, I realized that we're talking about exactly what makes the coach so special. It's the long-term, practical professional learning with the support through our mentorships that make the program unique. So I want to take just a few minutes to tell you about it. If you're not interested, the conversation continues in just a few minutes. Please feel free to skip ahead. Most professional learning happens in isolation, and then it's over. You're in a course, you attend a workshop, you read a book or do a book study, and then you go back to your school and try to implement what you learned. The coach is different. You're committing to an entire academic year of professional learning because you know that learning doesn't happen overnight or over the weekend. You're getting the support of a mentor for the entire academic year because you know that learning doesn't happen in isolation. You're working with a global cohort of coaches because you know that every school is unique, and it helps to hear the stories, successes, and challenges of others so you can make better informed decisions in your own setting. The coach is not your traditional sit and get PD. You're putting into action everything you learn as you learn, with the support of our community throughout the entire process. There is no one size fits all here. Every aspect of the coach is customizable to you and your needs. Want to get a peek at what you learn before you sign up? Check out our free sample week of the coach so you can see what learning with us is like inside our private community. Get it at edurolearning.com/coach preview. Okay, let's jump back to the Spotlight episode. All right, I was much shorter that time. Amy, tell us what surprised you.
The joy of going third, right? Is that you're like, oh, yes, that surprised me too. I think that when I arrived at my role, I was surprised that my colleagues didn't necessarily see me as a coach based on what my predecessor had done. And so, again, what Abby was saying, just about defining your role and just thinking about what coaching means to your context. But then also, as Carly was sharing, that not everybody really wants to be coached. And so I think for me, let's say to put something new on the table is just the importance of being visible, and just surprised at how it's similar to the 5-minute chat idea, but just how, like, if I intentionally walk through a hallway, I'm very likely to have a conversation with someone that's going to lead to something else. And it's very easy in our roles, I think, to be really focused on getting work done and working on projects, or maybe be at your desk all day. And I've been surprised at how much I have to really work to be visible, and to make sure that I'm out and about in the school. And so I think it kind of speaks to both of the other surprises as well. And so they're all kind of interconnected, but just, yeah, I guess I can sit in my office all day long, and I've got a million things that'll keep me busy all day long. And so I find that I actually have to schedule time and commit to, like, walking around the building. And so, like, knowing when there's different planning periods, or knowing that there's key times of when to be in different spaces, is something that's been kind of hard for me to, like, adjust my schedule to, because our days are no 2 days alike. But just making sure that I'm out there and visible, because a week could go by and you're like, I haven't even talked to that teacher because I haven't really seen them. So I think that's something that's been an adjustment for me, or something that took me by surprise.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good extension of those two. And it really, all three of the things that you all said, and especially this last one, Amy, that you're talking about, is like, these are new skills that you're learning when you're in the coaching role. Because as a teacher, whether you're a subject area teacher or a grade level teacher, you have your team. You see your team all the time, right? Like, you're in their classroom, or you're in team meetings, or you're doing planning, or whatever it is together. You don't have to go out of your way to do all these things. So this like strategic and intentional work of building relationships, being visible, starting conversations, knowing how the last conversation ended and where to continue that conversation to, knowing where the school is going and bringing that into the conversation, knowing those kids that you don't actually teach, like all of those pieces are new parts of the role. And I think, yeah, you brought all those three together really nicely, Amy. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. This really was a window into the learning experience you'll have inside the Coach Certificate and Mentorship Program and the kinds of colleagues you'll be learning with. If you're ready to develop your coaching practice over the next academic year, please join us for the next cohort of The Coach. You'll learn everything you need to be successful as a K-12 instructional coach with an entire academic year of curated content, plus the support of a mentor to adapt your learning to exactly your needs and experience level for the entire program. As one of my clients recently said to me, the thing I appreciate the most about the Coach is that it's so differentiated. It's so malleable to wherever you are in your coaching practice, and you can take it to your next step, which is why it makes it brilliant for anyone in any school at any time. If this sounds like a professional learning experience that you want to be part of, join us. Inside our private community, you'll also learn with a global cohort of coaches from schools around the world, so you can see how coaching really works in practice and build your coaching network. Our global cohorts open only once a year. Get all the details for our next cohort at edurolearning.com/coach. At Eduro Learning, teachers become leaders. Wherever you are in your role in schools, you are so much more than just a teacher. As an educator, you have built an amazing skill set that goes far beyond the classroom, and you deserve professional learning that does more than just tick a box. It's time to end the cycle of one size fits all, barely there, minimum PD, and get professional learning that's customized just for you. Join us for the next cohort of The Coach and see how our community-driven, personalized certificate programs will help you build the confidence you need to embrace your inner leader and make a bigger impact in your school setting. You deserve to be at the heart of your professional learning experiences. Find out more at edurolearning.com. Join our Coach Better Facebook group and connect with us on social media at Eduro Learning for more great resources for instructional coaches. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.